This chart tracks the public's perception of a recent Middle East arms deal versus the reality. Initial figures suggested an $8.6 billion transfer, but the actual approved total was triple that amount, hitting $25.8 billion. In terms of sheer volume, $25.8 billion pays for the kind of arsenal required to sustain an entire region's missile defense capacity for years. Transactions of this scale normally require the U.S. Congress to review the security implications, debate the necessity, and formally vote on the sale. This process exists to ensure that massive transfers of American weaponry are subject to public scrutiny and legislative approval rather than being moved overnight. However, Secretary of State Marco Rubio bypassed that entire process. He invoked an emergency declaration to unilaterally authorize the sale. The justification centered on an urgent need for hardware, claiming the geopolitical situation was too volatile to wait for a standard parliamentary review. The move essentially removed the legal requirement for congressional debate, allowing a massive military escalation to proceed without a single public vote. The official trigger for this emergency was the ongoing conflict involving Iran, which has deployed hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles against regional targets. The sheer volume of these attacks placed a crushing strain on regional defense systems, draining the supply of interceptors used to shoot them down. Consequently, Israel and the Gulf bloc, including Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, and Bahrain, demanded an immediate replenishment of their defense stockpiles. Instead of filing new sales, which trigger high scrutiny, the U.S. classified them as simple expansions of previous agreements. Utilizing this specific channel, the executive branch moved $25.8 billion through a legal pathway reserved for minor adjustments. Labeling a multi-billion-dollar arsenal as a mere extension of paperwork demonstrates how administrative wordplay can be used to override the intent of national oversight. This brings us to a significant irony. While the bypass was used to avoid the delay of a debate, these air defense systems will actually take up to 3 years to deliver. The government argued the situation was too urgent for congressional review, yet the hardware won't reach its destination for another 36 months. This delivery schedule indicates that the purchase isn't about solving an immediate shortage. It forces these nations to prepare for a conflict expected years into the future. An emergency with a 3-year fulfillment cycle is less of a reaction to a sudden crisis and more of a long-term commitment to a permanent military buildup. By committing to these massive, delayed orders, the purchasing nations are signaling that they view regional instability as a permanent fixture of their environment. They are preparing for a geopolitical reality where drawn-out missile and drone conflicts are the expected norm, requiring constant, massive stockpiles to sustain. The primary financial beneficiaries of this environment are the U.S. defense contractors who manufacture these specialized systems. This graph shows how the stock prices of these specific companies have consistently increased in tandem with regional tensions and these emergency orders. While these manufacturers originally relied on U.S. domestic funding, they are now securing billions in direct revenue from the budgets of the Gulf nations. On the factory floor, this translates to production lines that must run constantly to fulfill 3 years' worth of international backlog. By utilizing an emergency bypass for hardware that won't arrive for years, the executive branch prioritized a long-term manufacturing cycle